Every graduation, every concert, and every championship ends exactly the same way. Thousands of hands collide. Approval becomes audible. It seems like an automatic reflex, something we are born knowing how to do. Yet human toddlers lack the fine motor coordination to maintain a steady rhythm. The brain actually requires up to 7 years of development to master the timing needed to participate in an audience. When thousands of people strike their hands together, they initiate a feat of spontaneous physical self-organization. To trace how we learn to do this together, we look to the civic architecture of ancient Greece. As human rituals grew in scale, the Greeks engineered massive outdoor stone structures built directly into the sides of hills to hold their democratic assemblies. These amphitheaters functioned as passive acoustic equalizers. The ribbed limestone enhanced actors' voices while capturing and focusing the collective roar of the crowd back toward the stage. The Greeks called this active audience participation thoribos. Through this architectural mastery, an assembly of strangers could instantly amalgamate into a single vocal entity. Clapping emerged as a biological and structural mechanism capable of rendering real-time judgment. When a modern crowd wants to show maximum enthusiasm, they instinctively clap as fast as they physically can. Physicists call this energetic state mode I, and it generates a chaotic wall of white noise. Mode I has a mechanical problem. Because every person has a different natural fast clapping frequency, the statistical variance, or erratic dispersion between individuals, is far too wide. In this state, it is mathematically impossible for the room to synchronize. This graph shows how a crowd solves the physical paradox. To achieve unity, the audience executes a subconscious mechanical adjustment known as period doubling. Without communicating, independent individuals suddenly drop every second beat. By clapping slower, the relative frequency dispersion between strangers shrinks. According to the Kuramoto model for globally coupled oscillators, once that dispersion drops below a critical mathematical threshold, the crowd locks into a unified, rhythmic beat, entering mode 2. Synchronization actually decreases the overall volume in the room because there are fewer physical claps occurring per second. Still wanting to make noise, the audience speeds up the tempo, breaking the mathematical threshold and shattering the unity. The crowd is trapped in a physical hysteresis loop, endlessly chasing an equilibrium between the emotional desire to be loud and the mathematical necessity to slow down to synchronize. Long before the acoustics of amphitheaters or the physics of modern concert halls, body percussion began in the prehistoric canopy. Early bipedal primates drummed on resonant tree buttresses to signal their location across vast distances. Over millions of years, that primitive survival signal mutated. Today, it survives as a neurological contagion, activated the moment we observe others moving their hands in a crowd. This diagram shows the neural circuitry of applause. When you see someone clapping, mirror neurons in your inferior parietal lobe fire, simulating the motor action internally. Simultaneously, the crowd's sudden acoustic intensity acts as a massive alerting cue to the midbrain. This sensory trigger commands the ventral tegmental area to release a sharp phasic flood of dopamine. For both the performer and the audience, this creates a shared feeling of social validation. Clapping spreads through a room because it recruits our oldest evolutionary hardware. It biologically forces physical empathy and chemically rewards our conformity to the group. Because public adoration signals political legitimacy, ambitious leaders learned how to manufacture it. The Roman Emperor Nero established a school of applause to turn these biological vulnerabilities into a tool for imperial image. This simulation illustrates Nero's strategy. He embedded a massive claque of over 5,000 highly trained soldiers throughout the audience. These operatives artificially ignited social contagion, forcing civilians into compliance. Soldiers were drilled in specific clapping techniques, starting with the bombus. By cupping their hands, they trapped a pocket of air to create a hum mimicking a swarm of bees. The second strike was the embrices. Operatives hollowed their hands to produce a distinct clatter. This hollowed shape perfectly imitated the curved terracotta roof tiles used in Roman architectural engineering, weaponizing the ambient sounds of the city. Finally, they executed the testa. Striking their hands flat and stiff, they replicated the sound of heavy flat bricks, generating a piercing crack that cut through ambient crowd noise. When thousands of soldiers executed these synchronized strikes on command, the Romans transformed orgamic emotional expression into an instrument of psychological compliance. This manipulative commodification survived long after the fall of Rome. By the late 19th century, professional French claques were embedded in opera houses across Europe and America, selling guaranteed encores and curtain calls. The battle against manufactured approval reached a turning point in 1935 at the Metropolitan Opera. By halting the distribution of free tickets used by singers to hire claquers, manager Giulio Gotti-Casazza effectively bankrupted the shadow industry. This diagram compares another vital evolution in audience response. Because acoustic clapping provides no sensory feedback for individuals who are deaf, deaf communities engineered visual applause, raising their hands and twisting their wrists to prioritize movement over sound. This silent technology eventually transcended its origins. During the 2011 anti-austerity protests in Spain, demonstrators utilized visual applause to communicate mass approval without violating strict municipal noise ordinances. Approaching the frontier of cognitive science in 2026, researchers are utilizing real-time EEG hyperscanning to observe live audiences during massive ovations. When an audience applauds together, the electrical activity in their prefrontal cortices literally and mathematically aligns across hundreds of strangers simultaneously. The crowd briefly functions as a single distributed neural network. Unlike the effortless like on a glowing screen, applause demands a specific physical and geographic commitment. When you clap in a theater, you surrender your anonymity to the acoustic signature of the room. In an era saturated with frictionless metrics, applause remains a visceral form of feedback. It functions as a biological code, a shared signal that proves a crowd is present, united, and listening.